Hey folks, this is Holly
And Kristy.
with Holly and Kristy Unscripted. Welcome to this week's episode. Where are we today?
7? Is it 7?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Yeah, we missed last week because I was sick.
Yeah.
And we missed a couple weeks before that because we just couldn't get together.
Reasons, yeah.
Many
Life.
reasons. Yeah. Anyways, I'm glad you're here. We're at my house, which is why I'm welcoming her here. And welcome to all of you to the show. So, what have we got for us today?
So today we're going to talk about co-parenting, married versus single.
Right, because we are in those different situations. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm just going to adjust my mic here. So you're married and co-parenting.
Yeah.
I am single and co-parenting. And there are definite pros and cons to both.
Definitely.
And definite differences.
Yeah.
So I know for me, just starting off, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that we
co-parenting.
have talked about this a little bit, saying how Alex and I joke about divorcing so that we can have weekends.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And I mean, it depends on like your history and where you're coming from too, because like for me, I wouldn't have it any other way, but me and her dad split up before she was born.
Right.
Like it was
you don't know anything different.
Pretty brief relationship. Yeah. So I don't know any different, and nor does she.
Right.
So there was no real loss of a dynamic, for anybody. So, so it was never really a change we had to go through so much. But anyways, all right, let's look at your questions here. So co-parenting, married versus single, what are some challenges you've faced? All right, you go first.
I think for us, like as a married parenting unit, the challenges that we face are agreeing on discipline and things that revolve around bringing the children up, because we come from two completely different backgrounds. And well, I say completely different. They're not totally different. Like we both had single moms growing up, and I saw my dad every other week, but he didn't see his dad much at all.
Okay.
But just different styles of parenting that our moms had and lives that they had. So it was quite different. And I moved around a lot.
Yeah, you did.
And he moved around a little bit for different reasons. But so just what we think should be the right thing to do in some situations. Most of the time we get along really well and we have the same views and opinions and whatever. But there are some differences, and we have butted heads once in a while.
I bet.
And but nothing that could never be compromised. Yeah. And some things harder than others. But
So would you say you're more of the disciplinarian, or is he, or does it just sort of play out differently in different situations?
I think in the very beginning, like when Avery was little and it came to like timeout or something, I was probably more disciplinary than he was. More because like I grew up with siblings and cousins and I was always around children and he wasn't really. So, and I always babysat. I always had children around me.
Right.
So
you were
I
used
knew
to
if you don't do
boundaries.
this is what's going to end up happening.
Right.
Like if you let them get away with this now, then it's not going to be fun later.
Right.
So just little stupid things like throwing a toy, you have to be on them for it, or else it's going to become a problem later on, or biting or anything like that.
Right.
So from what I can remember, that was my thing. Like, no, you got to stick with it, and you have to stick with it, because if you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it, they
You're
catch on that super
doormat.
quick.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that we kind of figured out as we went together, and
I imagine that first one together, like it's the first go round with every single thing. So you have to figure out like, and I would think that you would make some assumptions going in as to how you go about things.
Yeah, and we
you
never
know?
talked about it.
Well, yeah, like you can't foresee all those things needing to be
No.
talked about, I don't think. I don't know, maybe some people do.
Yeah, I guess some people probably would, but I mean, we would be at the mall or something, and there'd be a kid screaming and kicking on the floor, and we're like, yeah, that's not going to be our kid.
I've said that before too, before Autumn
And
was
there's
born.
a lot of things like, my kid is never going to wear pajamas in public,
Right.
kind of thing. But I mean, you let those things go once you actually have children, and
Yeah.
like if you're sick or your kid's sick and you need to go to the store and they're in pajamas and
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
or if you're just lazy and it's like, whatever, I don't
Yeah.
care anymore.
Exactly.
But we never discussed like, well, if our child does this, what are we going to do? Or what if
Right.
a parent gets mad at my child, and what are we going to do? And so it's,
And
then,
even if you did talk about it ahead of time, talking about it when you don't have kids and then being in the situation where now you're fully invested and
Yeah.
this person has a personality and like all the different dynamics that go into it. Like,
yeah. And like you said, with your first one, everything's new for the first time, but really each kid is different.
Yeah,
So
I bet.
you can have a plan for the first one,
Right.
but the way that child responds to discipline is completely different than the second one or the third one.
Right.
So we realized with Kendall,
It's like
and
they're their own people or something.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of adjust how we handle her compared to Avery, because Avery, you almost have to really yell at him in order for him to actually listen to you,
Right.
because it's almost like he's like, oh, you're not serious.
Right.
And then Kendallin is, if you do yell at her, then she shuts right down. So you have to sit her down and talk to her about things.
Right.
So that was a huge learning curve.
Yeah.
And then Penny's kind of in between.
Right.
With some things you do have to yell at her, but she is sensitive too. So it's it's funny
Yeah.
how different they are.
Yeah. I find even like where I just have the one, it's funny how different she is month to month.
Yeah.
You know, like she's 2.5 now, and she's very independent. I'm sure a lot of people say that about their little ones, but like this one, she is so independent, and she knows what she wants, and she's very persistent, as are many, I'm sure. But like she's just kind of now getting to the point where like she had entered defiant stage a little bit already, but I really noticed the last few days she's like really playing the whole not wanting to do something, even with negotiations and all that kind of thing. Like this morning, we went back and forth about 18 times between her wanting something and me wanting her to do something first. Like she wanted, I don't know, a piece of peanut butter sandwich. And I said, okay, well, you get your shirt on first and then you can have the rest of your sandwich. And, you know, I know you're not supposed to use food or whatever, but in this particular case, it was a pretty simple thing. And of course she was going to get the food regardless. But, and so she would say, yes, okay, I'll put my shirt on, and then come over to put her shirt on and run away again. And then like say, okay, I want my peanut butter now. Well, no, you can't have your peanut butter till you put your shirt on. Okay, I'll put my shirt on, and then come over and run away. And we did that like 20 times, and no, not that many times, because eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to the kitchen. Just let me know when you're ready. You know? And she's just like, but she's enjoying pushing those boundaries now, where before she was testing them, but now she's really playing it up. You know, it's funny. It's funny. I was going to ask you something, but I can't remember. But I guess in response to changes of like differences in disciplining, one difference being co-parenting separately versus together, I find is her dad and I communicate really well now. I mean, it took us some time to figure out, find our groove or whatever, but we're doing really well now. In fact, I'm really proud of us. And I find I'm really comfortable with making assumptions as to how our parenting is similar. And I'm actually, as I'm saying this, I'm realizing how much I assume. I'm just now becoming aware of how much I assume that we're similar. Because we don't really, she doesn't change between one or the other. There's no weird like transitional stage between, you know, when she comes home from her dad's or when she goes to her dad's home from here. Like there's no real shift in her behavior. If something does happen that, you know, one of us needs to discipline her for some reason, or like we're not sure how to deal with tantrums lately or whatever, we communicate about it. but we both seem to be like, yeah, no, that's pretty much what I do too.
Yeah.
You know? So I think we're really fortunate that way.
That's good.
Neither one of us, I don't know a ton about his upbringing or how discipline happened in his home. I know in my home, it was mostly, Dad would sit us down and just talk to us. And Mom was more the disciplinarian for sure. And I think I fall somewhere in between the way the two of them were, but I mean, there was never any kind of strictness, but we certainly had to follow the rules if we wanted to get something. There were definite boundaries. But yeah, I guess I feel like that's not too much of a challenge, the discipline between him and me. It seems like we're pretty much on the same page. I do find now when she's not getting what she wants and really pushing it and crying and like, you know, like one of those moments where you're like, I just can't give in, just don't give in. Yes, I know she's crying, but just don't give in. When she gets to that point where she knows you're not going to give in, she'll cry for the other parent. And he said she does that with him too. Like if I'm not giving her what she wants, she calls for daddy. And I'm not sure if it's conscious that she thinks that'll work somehow. Yeah. or if she's just like trying the switch in her head. But she does it with him too, which is, I think, pretty funny. Because I know it doesn't work with me that I give in, and I have no doubt that it doesn't work with him either, you know, like.
Yeah, I think funny. Every kid does that.
Yeah.
Because, I
don't like you right now. Where's the nice one?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Avery and Kirby, not so much, because when they were little, they were always together. It was like people thought they were almost twins because they're so close in age and they're so, like, they were always together. Like we had them in soccer together, and there were a couple of years they were on the same team, and so they wouldn't, if it happened, it was rare. They wouldn't say like, well, I'm gonna go ask Mom, kind of thing. But Penny, I think because we're busy and like we might not be in the same spot at the same time, she'll ask Dad something, and then he'll say no, or let me think about it, or something like that, and then she'll come ask me. And I tell her
you don't
whatever.
Have time to find out what the other one said.
I'll say whatever, and then she'll go do whatever the thing was. Like she'll want to, I don't know, go to the park or have a cookie after supper or something. And like he would have said no or yes. Yeah. And then I would catch her doing the thing that I didn't let her do or whatever. And I'm just like, what the hell? Yeah. And then Alex was like, oh, well, I told her she could, or I told her she couldn't. And why is she doing that?
Right.
I'm just like, oh my God.
She's taking advantage of the chaos.
Yeah. She kind of just got thrown into everything because she was a surprise baby. And right. It was quite a surprise, and then we were just like, well, this is our life. We're crazy busy, so she's just going to have to fit in somewhere. And she did. Like, she adapted really well, and she was a great baby. And now she's finding her place and learning how to get what she wants. And, oh, man, like, the last couple days, she's had this little pout on. And Alex is like, I'm done. Yeah. You got to stop with this pouting. Because even this morning, she had the pantry door open and she was looking up at the cereal and just kind of staring. And I'm sure she was just like still waking up. And then she looks at Alex and she's like, she's got this little pout face like, help me, Daddy. Yeah. And Alex is like, what are you doing? You can't stand in the pantry. The door, it's in the way. You got to get your breakfast and move out of the way, kind of thing. And he was like, Penny, I'm not putting up with this anymore. And she's just like, and I'm like, Penny, what do you want? There's like 5 different cereals there. Just pick one and go get your breakfast. Yeah.
Autumn, she's kind of in a whiny mode. I know whiny mode will probably last for a long time, but like she wants something, and the go-to is immediately, I want blah, blah, blah. And I just like look at her, you know, like, dude, like, I don't respond to that. What are you gonna, like, this is the response you get. reframe that kind of thing, right? And I know they do that at the Y with her. I know our dad does it too. And it's just like, so why is your go-to to wine? I don't understand. But anyways, she now, it's like, it used to be just like you look at her and she would throw a plate